In a small, remote village surrounded by thick woods, strange things began to happen after an unusually harsh winter. The animals, once timid, had become eerily fearless. Wild dogs stalked the streets, deer with dull black eyes stared through windows at night, and birds gathered in ominous silence. It felt as if the forest had decided to watch. One morning, the villagers found the body of Matthias, the butcher, hanging from a tree just outside the woods. His skin was pale, and his eyes were gone, empty sockets where once there had been life. But what disturbed them the most was his face, not twisted in fear or agony, but calm, as if he had been relieved to die. Rumors spread. Some said it was the curse of the Hollow, an old folktale about spirits without morality or remorse, beings that wore human faces but acted only for the thrill of destruction. Others dismissed it as the work of a wolf pack, grown bold with hunger. That night, as people locked their doors and covered their windows, Daniel, the village priest, heard a knock on his chapel's door. He hesitated, but then opened it. A woman stood in the doorway, Alma, a widow known for her quiet kindness. Her hands trembled, and her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They're here," she whispered. "Who is here, Alma?" Daniel asked, his voice faltering. Her smile widened unnaturally, splitting her face like a crack in glass. "The Hollow Ones." Before he could shut the door, she lunged at him, biting his neck with a feral rage. Daniel screamed, but it wasn't just the pain. It was the horrifying realization that her eyes, once warm, were now cold and hollow, as if someone had plucked out her soul. The next morning, the villagers found Daniel's body sprawled on the chapel steps. His eyes were missing, and his face wore that same haunting expression of calm. Over the following days, more people changed. Some were neighbors, others lifelong friends. People who should have been trustworthy, but now acted with a detached cruelty. They'd smile as they set homes ablaze, laugh as they broke bones, and whisper strange, meaningless words as they slipped knives into flesh. It became impossible to tell who was still human and who had been consumed by the emptiness. Fear spread like wildfire. Families turned on each other, suspicious of any odd behavior, any misplaced smile. They boarded themselves inside, waiting for the madness to pass. But it didn't. It only grew. One by one, the villagers fell. Not to any external force, but to the terror of not knowing if their neighbor, or even they themselves, would turn next. The Hollow Ones didn't kill out of hatred or hunger. They killed simply because they could, delighting in the absence of consequence, in the freedom of having no rules, no guilt, and no fear. In the end, there was no grand resolution, no hero to save the day. The forest remained, watching in silence as the village rotted from the inside out. The last to fall was Diego, a young boy who had managed to evade the Hollow Ones by hiding in the crawl space of his home. When they finally found him, he didn't scream or run. He smiled, just like the others. And somewhere deep in the woods, the shadows stirred with laughter. The Hollow Ones had claimed another soul. Because in the end, there are no monsters greater than those who act without reason.